And I think specifically Bangkok, a very attractive place for ECs to go to. First of all, I think it would be the location, geographical location itself. What we do very well at Galaxy is we are able to take that passion from the local population and give them the tools to improve in order for them to create a world-class product to show to the world.
We will keep an open mind in terms of land bank and land opportunities in Bangkok. We're interested in Bangkok in particular. And if the government comes up with that piece of land or another piece of land, then we'll do the evaluation that is required around risk and opportunity and make a commercial decision to suit. Thailand is no different to Singapore in 2005 and maybe just prior before that. Thailand is following the very same model as Singapore, right? So it's realized more recently that to continue the growth curve for tourism, because that's what we're talking about, that's the principal aim at the end of the day, to increase the growth curve for tourism and to achieve its growth ambitions, which is principally to go from 36 million visitors to Thailand to something in the region of 50 million or above by 2030 or shortly thereafter. You need a lightning rod and you need things that are going to stimulate increased visitation, increase spend and length of stay in the country. So its consideration around entertainment complexes is one part of a tourism strategy to grow tourism for Thailand. And nobody can stand still. If we go back to Singapore in 2005, it couldn't stand still. It realized it couldn't stand still. And to stimulate the growth that they've achieved over the last, call it 15 years, it needed integrated resorts to achieve that. 48% of all international visitors to Singapore visit one of the two integrated resorts during their visit. And there's a clear indicator that they are net attractions for the country. And Thailand is going through the same machinations in terms of it wants to have entertainment complexes, but it's going through the same issues that Singapore went through in terms of consideration. Regulations, responsible gaming, taxation, land use. These are all considerations and they're natural for any new territory, and it needs to go through that process systematically. And Galaxy Entertainment will work with the government to achieve its aims. Conditions. When a company decides an entertainment complex company decides to invest in any one area, whether that's in any one country, whether that's Japan, UAE or Thailand, in this case, where there's interest at the moment, the conditions have got to be right. And one of those conditions is, making the entertainment complex accessible to all parties, including the average individual on the street, right? The average adult. Well, as long as you're 21 years and over, you should be allowed to come to the entertainment complex and also come to the casino, with some guide rails around that in terms of affordability and some controls around responsible gaming and making certain services available to ensure that responsible gaming is adhered to. Companies like Galaxy, as well as obviously other operators, we all adhere to very strict regulations. And one of those regulations is, around responsible gaming and making sure that the environment is a very comfortable and safe environment for all parties concerned. So naturally, when you go into a new territory like Thailand, it's going to be a topical point, and that topical point has to be dealt with responsibly through regulations and controls around gaming. And that's just to protect the industry and protect the individuals in terms of customers that are going into entertainment complexes. It's a natural occurrence and something that we believe that Galaxy, as well as I know that other industry leaders, will be wanting to partner with the regulator and the government of Thailand in terms of putting the appropriate controls and measures in place to ensure that the industry is a very healthy industry and it flourishes for Thailand and its people. It's an interesting question there, because obviously that comes back to the point that we made earlier around having the right conditions around the EC bill, right, and obviously licensing process thereafter. Firstly, if there is problem gambling, as there would be in alcohol consumption or whether it would be tobacco consumption, there's no discrimination around somebody's wealth or how much money they've got in the bank, right? So you have to put the right guardrails in place with regards to ensuring that somebody's doing responsible forms of gambling. But let's not lose sight of the fact that Thailand, through a number of reports and research that has been published, Thailand is already one of the largest gambling countries in Asia, right? As illegal as it may be. Research and data and analytics has illustrated that the prevalence for gambling is relatively high, right? And the size of the gambling market is relatively big. And everything's relative, but relatively big. But there's no guardrails around that at the moment. It's occurring either through VPN or through other online portals. And there's no regulations in place. There's no guardrails in place with regards to responsible gaming. There's no support network in place. All there is the size of the market, and the market is operating illegally at the moment. There's no tax revenue coming back into the country either as a function of that. That money is going overseas, right? And so there's no economic benefit, there's no jobs associated with online gambling. So if the country wants to have a catalyst for growth on tourism, then an EC bill and an EC licensing arrangement encourages billions of dollars worth of international investment. It results in thousands and thousands of additional employment opportunities, a very large infrastructure around nurturing talent. It puts all the guardrails in place with regards to problem gambling as well as AML. So the question that I would put back to anybody that's opposing EC at the moment is, why wouldn't they work through this as putting something in place that would become a legacy for Thailand and therefore achieve its aims, rather than necessarily pushing back on something that's already potentially a problem within society?
As with our development in Macau, which you studied today, there are a couple of core sort of elements that must fall into place for entertainment complex to be successful. The first one definitely is infrastructure. So highways, roads, public transportation, and things like that all need to be in place to work together hand in hand with the development in order for that to make it work. Second of all, it's definitely the regulation, which I know we are, I think the government is well in consideration already. It must also consider all angles in order for the entertainment complexes to be successful. Other than that, I feel then it would be the core competencies of the developer themselves, how accurate and how fast they can bring the product to date. To bring the most fresh and updated product to the market, because as Kevin was mentioning, the customer tastes change quite frequently since COVID because of the use of social media and things like that. So in order for the EC to be a success, other than the factors of infrastructure and government regulation, it also really depends on how quickly you can grasp the current trend in order for you to be successful here. I feel that the investment amount is definitely related to the overall master layout plan of this whole project. Whether or not it is enough, it has to be dependent upon more studies and more analysis that we do of the market and of our targeted customers. And as of now, we feel that we can neither say it's appropriate or not at the moment, because we were still in the early stages of this discussion, And so at the right time we will be able to share what is our plan and our vision for this EC in the future.
Just to add something to that, the level of investment by any company in Thailand around entertainment complexes will be the consideration will be more around the conditions of the bill as well, and therefore the licensing arrangement. We've just mentioned, and Andrew's rightly mentioned, that having access to the domestic population to the resort and casino side of the resort is a critical component. And because, as we've noted, from whether it's South Korea or whether it's Vietnam, it's very difficult to attract a multi-billion-dollar development when you're restricting, obviously, the local populace from attending that particular location. So it's in the best interest, really, of the operator, the government, and also the nation, right, the country, to have guide rails around the investment and the partnership, but to try and make it accessible to all, right? And I think that's where we'll be looking very closely, obviously, at the bill to ensure that it warrants, obviously, the level of investment that actually Thailand deserves. Thailand deserves an entertainment complex, one or maybe more than one, that it can be proud of, and that would take a significant investment. But again, the conditions have got to be right for that investment. Well, we adhere to very strict regulations pertaining to money laundering, or what's called AML, anti-money laundering. And the regulator is, we work very closely with the regulator, that's a government entity, and we're also audited independently on all of our AML-related processes. So, we want to bring what is classified as best practice into Thailand. And just on your point with regards to responsible gaming, there's a big piece of infrastructure that's already been put in place, not just in Macau, but in other territories around the world, whether that's the US or whether it's Singapore, and they're quite common in terms of working with the regulator again with regards to putting some controls around that, making services available within your own premises, having welfare groups involved in the process as well, that being audited and researched by universities. So there's this, and also a large amount of communications that occurs in and around the point of contact with customers inside the property. So there are programs and proven programs that will minimize the arm of gaming. And we want to, again, work with the regulator in Thailand in terms of bringing those best practices into play. They can continue to evolve, and they will evolve, but there are presently some very strict restrictions and regulations around AML, as well as, obviously, gaming regulations around problem gambling.
I feel there are a couple things that make Thailand, and I think specifically Bangkok, a very attractive place for ECs to go to. First of all, I think it would be the location, geographical location itself. Bangkok, Thailand is in the center of the Southeast Asian region. It already has a very strong sort of, I mentioned infrastructure before, there's international flights, domestic flights, from Hong Kong, or from Singapore, from elsewhere. So it in itself already is a very strong tourism industry around, which works again hand in hand with ECs, definitely. Without the tourism industries, ECs don't work on its own. Secondly, would be the local people. We feel, although we don't spend a lot of time in Thailand, we can feel that the local population is very young and vibrant and energetic, and they are looking for the next, I think, where we mentioned, the next big project to go into Thailand in order to help the country elevate to the next level. And also, we feel that the local population of Thailand and Bangkok, they understand what good service means, and they are willing to provide that for for their customers. What we do very well at Galaxy is we are able to take that passion from the local population and give them the tools to improve in order for them to create a world-class product to show to the world. So we feel that those two things coupled together really make sort of Bangkok, Thailand, a very attractive place to create this product, because not only does it bring a lot of economical benefits to the country, it would also help the local population to improve as a whole, as a force together, and bring this the best of Thailand to the world, basically. And that's how we feel about Bangkok, creating a possibility for ECs to develop there.
It's very early for us to make any assumption on any one particular land bank. There's been some news around a port development or a port redevelopment that there may be a large level of investment required, obviously as a function of development and gentrification of that location. But it's way too early at the moment. No piece of land has been formally, as far as I'm aware, no piece of land has been formally selected as part of this process. We will keep an open mind in terms of land bank and land opportunities in Bangkok. We're interested in Bangkok in particular. And if the government comes up with that piece of land or another piece of land, then we'll do the evaluation that is required around risk and opportunity and make a commercial decision to suit.
ถ้าชอบก็กดไลค์ถ้าใช่ก็กดแชร์อย่าลืมกดติดตามฐานเศรษฐกิจในทุกแพลตฟอร์มจะได้ไม่พลาดคอนเทนต์ดีๆจากพวกเรานะครับ